Hey folks, this is Captain Paul Brawley with Fish Finder Guide Service. Hope everybody's doing well this week. We're going to be looking at some of this stuff over here near the bolt hole. The water's been warming up, and these trout, with the tide swings, we've been having some pretty good tide swings, and these trout are moving in and out of these cuts that are all through these little islands right here. We're going to be getting off the boat on all the shallow sand. There's a big shallow sandbar here, and there's one big shallow sandbar in the middle there. And we're going to be plugging these guts with that tide running. I like using like a chartreuse colored bait because it's a little deeper water. I'm trying to get it down on the bottom, so I'm using a 1/4 ounce jig head through there. You can also use like a glow with chartreuse tail, and you're going to be working all those little guts that are coming in and out of Corpus Christi Bay that separates your boat hole proper from the Corpus Christi Bay. There's probably 4 or 5 good guts through there, little turns. There's a couple of 2 or 3 real nice sandbars you can walk down and just plug your lures, as well as anywhere in this area here. There's been a bunch of trout right off the edge of all of that. So you're just going to kind of concentrate in that area right there. Throw in your lures. You could try shrimp and cork in there if you would like. That's more for me. It's more where I love getting off the boat, waiting, walking down those sandbars and plugging those holes and trying to pick up those tide runners. Those trout are running in and out from Corpus Christi Bay in there. You'll notice when you're here that all out in here, there's dolphins going crazy, hammering stuff. Also, in the middle of this, dolphins will be going off. So if you see those dolphins, you know the trout are around, and just get out on one of those bars and start trying to wade around it, and you're just going to be plugging your lures, looking for some nice trout. I'm liking like I said, in a deeper water, the chartreuse with, the you can use the chartreuse, or you can just have a chartreuse tail, like a glow with a chartreuse tail, or even like a pumpkin seed chartreuse tail. But I like using those in that deeper water. It seems to attract their attention. A little bit heavier jig head, 1/4 ounce, 1/3/8 ounce, and try to give it, don't, you're still fishing a little methodical because the water's not super warm yet, but you can give it some action down there, bringing it off up and off that bottom, and you will pick up some pretty nice tide runner trout coming in out of Corpus Christi Bay right there. All right, we're going to move from there. We're going to come over here and look on this east side a little bit. We're going to be looking at the very end of what they call Packery Hole, right up in here. Right there, right now, during the middle of the day, seems to be a lot of reds moving up there, especially if you catch the tide in the right direction. Seems to be coming in all morning and kind of starting to slack and dump a little bit later in the day. So you're going to be looking in there. There's several little guts and channels and bars all through that area. There's an old duck blind right here off to the I would call it the south end of the duck blind, this side of the duck blind. You're going to be looking for all those little trenches and sand holes. Those reds seem to like using that as their little runway to come in and out of the deeper water to the shallow water, or even escaping the shallow water to the deeper water. All through there. You can try using some sardines on a windy day. The sardines are starting to pick up again. I like free lining them on a windy day and get you a slick going. And then you could try that, or you could just kind of walk around in there throwing lures. Either way, you can get your boat up in here. It's still about waist deep, but once you get a little further past it, it gets pretty shallow. Not to float or not to be there, but maybe to jump up and get back out, unless you have like a TRP or something like that, where you can jump up, or a really light, maybe scooter boat or something that you can just jump up and get out of there. But what I would do is either stay back here and throw up into the trenches, or you can park your boat and get out and kind of wade around them. You can even wade with those sardines. You can put some in a bucket and throw them over there in that sand looking for those reds. Seems like there's been quite a few reds in that area, especially if you catch the tide right. When the tide's falling, it seems better. The tide's coming in, they're moving way out into these flats here, and they get hard to get. But when that tide's falling, they're concentrating around that mouth of this big lake right here. They're trying to get all around this mouth, so they have a good way to escape the tide falling, and they're not going to get stuck way up on one of these shallow flats. But that seems to be one good or halfway decent plan, at least for redfish. You guys can give that a shot, and hopefully it works out for you right in there. All right, we're going to come down the Intercoastal a little ways. We're going to come back over into an area we kind of talked about last week. We didn't really in particular talk about this area. This area right in here, it is this zone in particular right in there off the Intercoastal. You'll start seeing the sand holes. What I'm liking doing is jumping the bar, and I'm making my long drift southeast wind up behind these islands here, coming back around, getting back in Intercoastal, and then jumping the bar, and then making all my drifts in there. I'm looking for speckled trout and redfish through there. What you're going to do is you're going to be throwing either soft plastics or shrimp and corks if you can get shrimp. And all through there seems to be some quality trout. There's quite a few littler trout, some quality trout there, and then there is scattered redfish on that flat. If that doesn't work out, depending on the tide, you may have to move past these islands out onto this big bar right here. Sometimes they'll relocate on top of this big bar right here if they come off the Intercoastal, or like I would say, the higher the tide is, the further up here they're going to be. The lower the tide is, the further out here towards this natural gut they're going to be. There's a nice bar there. Now, if you get too close to Pure Oil Channel, which Pure Oil Channel is right here, it runs, well, kind of a bad deal. It's right in there. Anyway, you get too close to that, it's going to be super shallow. So you want to stay out more in front of this little island right here and kind of make your drifts back towards the natural gut, running way back around, get in front of the island and drum. There is a channel that runs right in front of the island, so you have a safe place to shut down. You're going to drift this flat, get out to the natural gut, and come back around. That whole area there seems to be holding some really good trout. If the tide's a little lower and they're further out, when you're getting in the area that's when the tide's higher and they're a little bit closer, it's pretty shallow. Some of those bigger trout are spooky in that shallower water, or they can identify you're throwing a lure or something they don't want. So it seems like the higher the tide up in here, I'm catching a little bit smaller to keeper size trout, scattered reds. But once I get out here when the tide's lower and I'm working this area from this island out to the natural gut, I seem to be finding a little better quality trout. 15 to 20, 25 inch range trout in there. Anyway, you guys have good luck. Give it a shot, and hopefully you'll catch a bunch of fish. Be courteous to each other. And until next time, this is Paul Brawley with Fish Finder Guide Service.